They lost their integrity. They lost their character. And character, once broken, is the hardest thing in the world to rebuild. You see, life has a way of balancing the scales. Not always immediately. Not always visibly. But always certainly. The people who betray others carry that poison within them, and eventually it consumes them from the inside out. Your job is not to seek revenge. Your job is not to collapse in grief. Your job is to rise. Because the greatest punishment you can give someone who betrayed you is to become so unshakable, so powerful, and so at peace, that their betrayal becomes the best thing that ever happened to you. Betrayal has a way of arriving without warning. One moment you are standing in the middle of trust, comfort, and certainty, and the next, the ground beneath you is completely gone. The shock alone is enough to shake the strongest person to their core. But once the dust begins to settle, once the tears begin to dry and the noise in your mind grows quiet, something remarkable starts to happen. You begin to see clearly for the very first time. Betrayal is not an accident. It is a revelation. It pulls back the curtain on a reality that was always there, hidden beneath smiles, promises, and carefully chosen words. The person who betrayed you did not suddenly become someone else overnight. They simply stopped pretending. And as painful as that truth is to accept, it is also one of the most powerful gifts you will ever receive, because now you know. Now you can no longer be fooled by the same face, the same voice, the same presence that once felt so safe. Think about every great moment in your life where you gained wisdom. None of them came from comfort. None of them came from easy days and smooth roads. They came from the moments that broke you open. The moments that forced you to look at life with new eyes. Betrayal is no different. It is one of life's most brutal teachers, and like all great teachers, it does not come to destroy you. It comes to show you something you were not yet ready to see on your own. What it reveals about the person who betrayed you is far more important than the act itself. It reveals their capacity for deception. It reveals the limits of their loyalty. It reveals that somewhere deep inside them, fear, insecurity, or selfishness outweighed every promise they ever made to you. You were not dealing with the person you thought you knew. You were dealing with someone running from their own truth, and you simply happened to be standing in their way. And here is what makes this revelation so critical. It protects you. Not just today, not just in this moment of hurt, but for every chapter of your life that is still unwritten. Because the person who has been revealed can never truly hide again. The mask is gone. The illusion is broken. And you, standing in the wreckage of what was, are now equipped with something you did not have before, the truth. Raw, uncomfortable, liberating truth. The most dangerous thing in your life was never an enemy you could see. It was always the one you could not. Betrayal changes that. It forces what was hidden into the light, and once something is in the light, it loses all power over you. You are no longer walking blindly. You are no longer investing your energy, your love, and your loyalty into something built on sand. And while the pain of this moment is real, while it is heavy and it is sharp, underneath it is the quiet beginning of something far greater than what you lost. There is a moment, usually in the darkest hours after betrayal, where the mind turns against itself. You begin to ask the questions that have no clean answers. What did I do wrong? Why was I not enough? Was there something in me that invited this? And the more you ask, the deeper you sink, because you are searching for a reason inside yourself for something that was never about you to begin with. The actions of the person who betrayed you were born in them, not in you. They came from their own unresolved wounds, their own insecurities, their own inability to show up with honesty and courage when it mattered most. People do not betray others from a place of strength. They betray from a place of weakness, from fear of confrontation, from hunger for something they felt was missing, from a character that had not yet been built strong enough to carry the weight of real loyalty. That is their story. That is their limitation. And it was never a reflection of your value. Your worth is not determined by how someone chose to treat you. Read that again, slowly. Because the world will try to convince you otherwise. It will whisper that if you were truly worthy, they would have stayed. If you were truly enough, they would have chosen differently. But worth is not something that can be taken from you by another person's poor decision. Worth is not a vote. It is not a popularity contest. It is not something that rises and falls based on who decides to honor it and who decides to throw it away. Your worth existed before they arrived, and it will stand long after they are gone. What their betrayal truly exposes is the gap between who they presented themselves to be and who they actually are. That gap, that distance between their image and their reality, is where their destruction quietly begins. Because a person who is capable of betraying someone who genuinely trusted them is a person who is not yet whole. They are fractured on the inside, compensating on the outside, and moving through life collecting consequences they do not yet realize they are earning. Every choice leaves a mark. Every act of disloyalty chips away at the foundation of the life they are trying to build. You, on the other hand, showed up fully. You gave what was real. You trusted because you were capable of trust, and that is not a flaw, that is a strength. The ability to open yourself to another human being, to invest genuinely, to believe in something and someone, that takes courage. Not everyone has it. The person who betrayed you certainly did not have it in the way that you did. And while they walked away carrying the weight of what they did, you walk away carrying something far more valuable. The knowledge that you were real, you were honest, and you gave without reservation. Never shrink yourself to make sense of someone else's inability to appreciate you. Never rewrite your story to cast yourself as the reason for their failure. The narrative that says you were not enough is a lie dressed up in the language of self-reflection, and you must refuse it completely. What happened was not a verdict on your character. It was a confession of theirs. And as you begin to separate their story from yours, as you begin to reclaim the truth of who you are without the shadow of their betrayal defining you, pain has a reputation that it does not deserve. From the time we are young, we are taught to avoid it, silence it, medicate it, and move past it as quickly as possible. We treat it like an enemy that must be defeated rather than a messenger that must be heard. But the people who have lived the most extraordinary lives, the ones who have risen from circumstances that should have broken them completely, all share one common understanding. They did not run from their pain. They walked straight through it, and on the other side, they found a version of themselves they never would have discovered in comfort. Pain is not a sign that something has gone wrong with your life. Sometimes it is the clearest sign that something is finally going right, that the illusions are falling away, that the relationships, the situations, the identities that were too small for you are being stripped back to make room for something larger. When betrayal tears through your life, it does not just take something from you, it also clears space. And that empty space, as terrifying as it feels in the beginning, is not a void. It is potential. It is the raw material of transformation waiting to be shaped by your hands. Think about the moments in history that have produced the most unbreakable human beings. They were not born in luxury. They were not forged in easy seasons. They were created in fire, in loss, in rejection, in betrayal, in circumstances so heavy that the only two options were to collapse or to become. And the ones who became something extraordinary made a decision, consciously or unconsciously, to let the pain work for them rather than against them. They picked up what was meant to destroy them and used it as a foundation to build upon. That is not just survival. That is mastery. The danger is not the pain itself. The danger is what you tell yourself about the pain. If you decide that what happened to you is proof that the world is against you, that love is a trap, that trust is foolishness, then the betrayal wins twice. It takes what it already took, and then it takes your future as well. But if you look at that same pain and say, "This happened for me, not to me," everything shifts. The same experience that was meant to be your ending becomes your beginning. The wound becomes the very place where your greatest strength quietly takes root. You do not need to pretend it does not hurt. You do not need to perform strength for the world while you are breaking privately. Real transformation does not ask you to be unfeeling. It asks you to feel everything fully, and then make the conscious choice to keep moving. Grief is part of the process. Anger is part of the process. The sleepless nights, the replaying of moments, the wondering about what could have been, all of it is part of the process. The only thing that separates those who rise from those who stay down is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to let pain be the final word. There is a version of you that exists on the other side of this, and that version was not built in the good times. It was built right here, in this exact moment, in the middle of everything that feels impossible and heavy and unfair. Every day that you choose to get up, to keep going, to refuse to let this experience define the ceiling of your life, you are adding another layer to an unshakable foundation. The fire that was meant to consume you is slowly, quietly, turning you into something that cannot be burned. And when you finally step into that version of yourself fully, when you look back at this chapter from a place of power and peace, there is something deeply human about the desire for revenge. When someone betrays you, when they take what you gave in trust and turn it into a weapon against you, Every instinct inside you wants to respond. You want them to feel what you felt. You want the world to see them for what they truly are. You want justice, loud, visible, undeniable justice. And that desire is not something to be ashamed of. It is honest. It is real. But it is also, if you are not careful, the very thing that keeps you chained to the moment that hurts you instead of moving toward the life that is waiting for you. Revenge is a distraction dressed up as justice. Every moment you spend plotting, exposing, or obsessing over what someone did to you is a moment stolen from your own growth, your own healing, your own becoming. The person who betrayed you has already taken enough. Do not hand them your time, your mental energy, and your future on top of everything else. Because here is the truth that the most unshakable people in the world have learned. You do not need to destroy someone who has already begun destroying themselves. You simply need to step back, stay focused, and let time do what it does with absolute precision. Silence is a language that speaks volumes. When you choose not to retaliate, not to lower yourself to the level of the person who hurts you, you are not showing weakness. You are demonstrating a level of self-mastery that most people will never reach. The world is watching more than you realize. And what it sees when you rise quietly, when you rebuild without bitterness, when you move forward with dignity and intention, is something far more powerful than any argument you could have made or any exposure you could have orchestrated. Your life, lived well and lived fully, becomes the loudest statement you will ever make. Success is not just a reward, it is a response. Every boundary you set, every goal you pursue, every morning you choose growth over grief is a declaration that what happened to you did not finish you. It redirected you. And as you begin to build, as the vision becomes clearer, as the work becomes more focused, as the results begin to speak for themselves, something remarkable happens. The person who once held so much power over your emotions begins to shrink. Not because they changed, but because you grew. You outgrew the pain, the anger, and the need for them to understand what they lost. You simply became too focused on your destination to keep looking in the rearview mirror. The greatest revenge is a life they cannot ignore. Not a life performed for their attention, not a life built to spite them, but a life so deeply rooted in purpose, peace, and power that it stands entirely on its own. When you reach that place, and you will reach that place, the satisfaction you feel will have nothing to do with them. It will be entirely yours. Built by your hands, fueled by your pain, and sustained by your decision to never let what they did become bigger than what you are capable of becoming. And while that life is being built brick by brick, while the foundation grows stronger with every passing day, there is one final piece that makes the entire structure unbreakable. Forgiveness is perhaps the most misunderstood word in the human experience.